Hey, welcome to Outsmart Your Guitar. Glad you could join us. Today is lesson 7 in beginning guitar. So you're going to learn the major scale, and then we're going to introduce you to tablature, how to read it and understand what you're seeing. All right? So before we do that, I want to remind you to like and subscribe to Outsmart Your Guitar and ring the notification bell if you want to be informed when new content is posted. Well, let's get to it. As I said, you're going to learn the major scale, right? Here it is in standard notation. Now, I know you don't know how to read music. Don't worry about it. I'm not trying to scare you. So you start in G, which is the 3rd fret of the 6th string, and you go over 2 octaves to the 3rd fret of the 1st string, which is the 2nd octave, G. And we're going to show you how to do that right now. The diagram that you're seeing is a representation of the major scale. It looks like a chord diagram. Here, we're in the key of G. That big 3 on the left side next to the circle is the 3rd fret of the 6th string, and that's the root tone. So we're in G, and you got a root tone here, and you got a root tone here as well. These are all Gs. So we're going to play over 2 octaves. You'll see a column, a vertical column of numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, which represents fingers, which it says right next to that. What that means is your first finger is going to play everything at the 2nd fret. Your second finger is going to play everything at the 3rd fret. Your third finger is going to play everything at the 4th fret, and your 4th finger is going to play everything at the 5th fret. And what we call that is 1 finger, 1 fret. So your fingers aren't moving off of the fret. If a note is on that fret, it's played by the appropriate finger. All right, let's walk through this. Oh yeah, first, before that, I want to talk about your thumb. Your thumb needs to be straddling the spine. I got a skunk stripe here, which shows the highest point on the back of the neck. And you'll notice between the joint and the tip, I'm straddling in between. And you'll notice I'm between the dot at the 3rd fret and the 2nd fret, or thereabouts, okay? Now, you can pivot on your thumb, keeping it in place. You'll notice what I'm doing here, keeping it in place, because you're going to need to swing your 4th finger to get the 6th, 5th, and 4th strings, and that's what you do, pivot. But you do not move your thumb out of place. All right? Let's walk through this real nice and easy. Start with your 2nd finger at the 3rd fret of the 6th string. And notice I'm not standing up on the note. I'm actually just a nice gentle arc playing almost on the flat, but not quite. Okay? So play that note. Now leave that finger with the pressure on. Pivot with your thumb a little bit to get your 4th finger at the 5th fret on the 6th string. Now, your first finger is at the 2nd fret on the 5th string, so lift these fingers off, but just a little. Don't go way back. Just hover and play that note. Leave that pressure on. Add your 2nd finger a fret higher at the 3rd fret on the same string. And then your 4th finger, pivot a little bit to get that at the 5th fret on the 5th string. Keeping the pressure on those fingers. Now move your first finger over to the 4th string at the 2nd fret. Keep the pressure on as you play with your 3rd finger at the 4th fret on the 4th string. Now you can release your first finger as you pivot to your 4th finger on the 5th fret of the 4th string. Move your first finger over to the 2nd fret of the 3rd string. Leave it planted as you play the 4th fret of the 3rd string with your 3rd finger. You can release the first finger as you play the 5th fret note on the 3rd string with your 4th finger. 2nd finger now on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string. Leave it planted as you play the 5th fret of the 2nd string with your 4th finger. First finger over to the 2nd fret of the 1st string. Leave it on, and 3rd fret of the 1st string with your 2nd finger. That's ascending. Descending is backwards. The fingers do the exact same thing, playing the same frets they've always played. So, third fret, first string, second finger, first finger on the second fret of the first string, pivot your fourth finger to the fifth fret of the second string, your second finger to the third fret of the second string, now your fourth finger to the fifth fret of the third string, third finger on the fourth fret of the third string, first finger, second fret, same string, fourth finger to the fifth fret of the fourth string, third finger, fourth fret of fourth string, whoops, first finger on the second fret of the fourth string, fourth finger on the fifth fret of the fifth string, second finger, third fret, fifth string, first finger, second fret, same string, fourth finger, fifth fret of sixth string, and we conclude with the second finger, third fret of the sixth string. All right, here's what you're going for. Whoops, let me start again. That's what you're going for. And this is the G major scale, or more correctly, the major scale in the key of G. So pause the video, practice this up and back. And if you need to rewind to watch the demonstration, go ahead and do that. And then pause the video and practice this for a few minutes, going up and back 3 or 4 times. Then press play when you're ready to continue. What you're seeing on screen right now is first a representation of the treble staff, which is what all guitar music is written in. This is where you would put your notes. Below that, you have the tablature staff. This represents the guitar neck. You'll notice the high E and the low E written out there. You'll see the guitar neck now down below that. Again, notice the high E and the low E. This is how the guitar neck is laid out in tablature. The high E is at the top, just as it is in the image here. Below that, you'll see the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Those represent the frets. Now, I'm going to explain all this to you in a diagram showing the G major scale you just played written out in tablature. Just want to pop in for a second and tell you down in the description, you'll see a link to patreon.com, Outsmart Your Guitar. Press on that, go on over, subscribe, and become a patron. In so doing, you will unlock access to a vast quantity of lessons that are not featured here, expanded versions of lessons that are featured here, and all the written material for every lesson. Sound good? All right, let's get back to the lesson. This is why I showed you the normal notation staff at the very beginning, because as you can see in the music staff on the top, there are all the notes written out. And this is standard procedure when you're working with tablature. You're going to see the notation written out above it. And then on the tablature staff, where you see high E at the top and low E at the bottom, look down at your fretboard and you'll see at the top of your vision the high E, and at the bottom of your vision, the low E. So when you see that 3 and 5 at the very beginning on the low E, that's the first 2 notes you played before. Now you'll notice up above the notation, I have a 2 and a 4, and then a 1. That's showing you the finger that you want to play with. And so you keep going, 4 on the 5th fret of the 5th string. You'll see the 5 there. Those numbers represent the frets. And they're laid over the string that you played them on. So beyond that, you go here to the 4th string, 2, 4, 5. And then on the third string in the next measure, 2, 4, 5. I keep going, 3, 5, 2, 3, right? There it is. So pause the video and take a moment to kind of walk through this and play through the scale one note at a time and get used to looking at the tablature representation. Now, when you look at the notation above, you'll see those are all eighth notes, right? So now you understand the note values of the notes you're playing. So you're playing 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and so forth, right? And that's the whole idea of why I teach note values over notation and reading music, because at the very least, knowing the note values when you're looking at tablature will help you know how long each of those notes are supposed to last. You don't even now need to listen to the song because you have the notation in that you understand the value of the notes, not necessarily what the notes are, but the value of the notes, right? So that you know how long to play each note or how long to hold each note out. So pause the video, practice this for a couple of minutes, get comfortable with it, all right? And then press play when you're ready to continue. What you're looking at now is the major scale, both ascending and descending, and you'll notice between the notation staff and the tablature staff, we have picking direction. Just like in your strumming, when you're playing single notes, there's picking direction, and it uses the exact same symbols. So, you start with a downstroke, then go to an upstroke, move to the next string with a downstroke, upstroke, downstroke, move to the next string with a downstroke, upstroke, downstroke, move to the next string with a downstroke, upstroke, downstroke, move to the next string with a downstroke, upstroke, next string downstroke, upstroke. Now we're turning around, downstroke, next string upstroke and downstroke, next string upstroke, downstroke, upstroke to the next string upstroke, downstroke, upstroke, move to the next string upstroke, downstroke, upstroke, move to the next string upstroke, downstroke. So look down in the lower right hand corner and you'll see what I'm doing. That's what you're aiming for. So pause the video. If you need to rewind and review the picking instruction, go for it. It's all right there in the diagram as well. Then practice this for a few minutes after pausing again and get comfortable with this. Remember, look at my hand here, how I'm playing the notes. I'm not standing up on them on the tips of my fingers. I'm just making a nice gentle arc. And my thumb is staying put in the same place and just pivoting, right? Okay, when you're ready to continue, press play. All right, the high E string. Now, don't make the mistake of thinking, well, I know the low E, so I know the high E. Well, yeah, okay, probably true, but you want to do this anyway because the relationship of the high E to the rest of the guitar is different than the relationship of the low E to the rest of the guitar. From the low E, say at the 5th fret, the next string, that's a D. On the high E, yes, that's an A as well, but the next note over is not a D, it's an E, right? And so the relationships are different. So you want to practice this. E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E. Down, E, E flat, D, D flat, C, D, B flat, A flat, G, G flat, F, E. So practice all 6 strings now, all the way across, up and back, jump around as far as, the order in which you do the strings, so you know them, both ascending and descending. Now you're ready to do the full-on exercise of grab a note. For example, that's a D because it's the 7th fret of the 3rd string. This is a B, it's the 12th fret of the 2nd string. This is an E flat because it's the 6th fret of the 5th string. This is a C because it's the 10th fret of the 4th string. The speed at which you're able to recall notes is a determination of how well you know this. It helps you. It's a self-test on how well you've learned and memorized the notes of the fretboard. If you're still triangulating, that's okay. Everybody learns at a different pace, and that is not a problem. You're not competing with anybody. We all learn at different paces, and some stuff we learn quicker than other stuff, and that too is okay. So be patient with yourself. Remember, you're at the beginning of your journey learning to play the guitar. So take your time, no hurry, and just learn this stuff as you're able. You'll get it, it will sink in, and one day you'll surprise yourself. You'll find you're calling out notes, and you're not even triangulating. For me, that was a big deal. For you, I'm sure it will also be a big deal. So that's what's really cool, right? Okay, go ahead and do this, and then press play, and we'll wrap things up. All right, there you go. Some really valuable information here today. The major scale. It's the most important scale that you are going to learn because it has a lot of use in chord construction and in progression construction, how these things are put together. And we'll delve into that as time allows when it's appropriate. I just want to give you a heads up that this is part of why you're learning this now. The other thing you're learning is playing single notes. Another thing you're going to want to know how to do. Even if you're on acoustic guitar, it still matters, particularly if you love bluegrass. Tablature. You got familiar with what tablature is all about, how to look at it, interpret it, and understand it. And we'll get into more of that because I put a lot of things in tablature form that I teach down the road. And you got your 6th string in there, the high E. Make sure you go over all 6 strings and start learning to memorize all the notes of the fretboard up to the 12th fret. Okay, there's an overview of what we went over. That'll do for this lesson. Thank you again. And we're moving down the road in your journey. We'll see you next time.